When was the last time you took a leap of faith, trusting that everything is going to work out? Do you crave growth, or are you merely content with the status quo? If you want more out of your life, out of your career, and out of your relationships, you are in the right place. Take the leap and discover how to create a life by design rather than living it by default. Real success starts with you. Now here's your host, Colleen Biggs.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Take the Leap. I am your host, Colleen Biggs, and wow, it is 2023, meaning we could do anything with this year of 2023. And I want to ask you, what do you have on your plate? What are you working on this year? And are you aligning yourself with the right people that are going to assist you in reaching your goals this year? Well, today we're going to talk to an expert, Jacqueline Wales, and she has all types of programs and workshops about becoming a true leader, because that is really what it takes to reach your goals in any time of the year, but especially in 2023. But before I get to our guest today, I want to thank our sponsor for today, Alley Spine Center in Scottsdale, Arizona. What sets our office apart from other offices is our focus and expertise in treating degenerative spinal conditions, including disc disease, bulging herniated disc, spinal stenosis, neuropathy, sciatica pain, and tingling and numbness in the arms, hands, legs, feet, as well as severe and chronic neck pain and headaches. We specialize in corrective care, not just the treatment of symptoms, with physical medicine modalities. In many cases, pre and post images are used to help determine the structural improvement of the spine. If you're someone who has been suffering from neck or back pain, spinal stenosis, sciatica, or other pain conditions, and you haven't experienced chiropractic in an integrative corrective care office, please call us and we will make immediate appointments for you to see if you can get back to living your best. You can reach Alley Spine Center at 480-809-4700 or visit them online at alleyspinecenter.com. All right. Now back to our guest that we have today. Jacqueline Wales is the author of The Fearless Factor at Work, and a novel, When the Crow Sings. She has worked with high achieving women to help them take ownership and authority in their professional lives and find a clear path to move beyond the fears that hold them back with their Transformational Strategies for Success program. Jacqueline, welcome to the show.
Great to be here, Colleen. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's always fun to have you on the show because you have so much experience around fear. And you and I have had interviews before. I've been in your interviews for your next book that you have coming out. And I've interviewed you on our podcast previously talking about fear. But I love it that you've taken it to the next level to really walk into the shoes of becoming a true leader. Don't you feel like many women, especially in high-powered positions today, whether owning their own businesses or maybe they're CEOs or COOs of corporations, Fortune 500 companies, that they feel like they're leaders, but there's something missing for them to really engage and own and have that ownership of that leading position?
I think that one of the biggest things that comes up for women in leadership is the self-doubt about whether they deserve to be in the position that they're in. Yeah. And that's a big one. And I'll share with you, I spoke with a woman last week. In fact, she's the she's run under the C-suite. She's a chief communications officer. Yeah. Now, this woman has been newly promoted into a role, and yet she still has doubts about whether she's qualified to be there. Now, you hear this over and over again. So my work is all about helping people take that ownership, that authority, and really learn how to claim it as their own and step fully into the roles that they inhabit. Because it's not just simply about becoming a better leader. It's becoming a better you is what it really comes down to. Because here's the thing that for most of us, and I wrote about this in my blog post this morning, most of us live two lives. the life that we kind of live in our safe zones, and the life where we can actually step into our full potential. And the number of people who are not doing that, that's problematic. That is really problematic. So I really want to, make sure that women specifically, especially high achieving women, which is the people I usually work with, they're really truly getting out of that whole, they call it the imposter syndrome, but I like to say that's BS. It's a label, and stop using labels. But if you look at what the symptoms of that are, it's simply self-doubt, the lack of belief in oneself, and the lack of ability to truly change the stories. And you've heard me say this before many times. We need to change the stories of who we are or who we think we are, and learn to become the person that we really, truly are. Yeah. It's a different thing altogether.
You hit a chord with me when you talked about not keeping labels like that. Like, we need to stop allowing these labels to stick. For years I walked around with labels of what everyone thought I was, or what I did, or what I was to become. And what happens is you start molding yourself around the labels. That's where the dangerous steps come in, when you allow the labels to stick. So, my parents taught me, I'm rubber, you're glue. Whatever you say bounces off of me, sticks back on you. And we need to remember that even in our age that we are today, in the positions of authority that we're in today, we need to remember that still is very real, because we used to protect ourselves from bullies that way. But this is the way to protect yourself from those labels sticking, and really truly find, I love what you said about owning that leadership. And it's not about becoming a better leader. It's about truly owning the leadership for you. And then that is attracting those that follow you, because that's the definition of a leader, is that someone's following you. So if you truly want to make the greatest impact in a company that might have 100,000 employees, or maybe even 50 employees, is to walk the walk and talk the talk, and believe and share that vision of belief, so they can all adopt it in the company. And the more you believe in yourself, and the more passion you have for yourself and how you're impacting the world, the more others will believe it's possible for them too.
Absolutely. But here's the core factor in this. Trust. You've got to, first of all, trust yourself. You trust that you can handle whatever it is that comes your way. There's the fear piece right there. Trust that you have what it takes to be a good leader. I'm not even going to say great at this point in time, just to be a good leader. And help other people to trust you in return. Because what is trust about? It's doing what you say you'll do. Say what you mean and mean what you say. And don't be mealy-mouthed or waffling about whatever it is. And certainly take into consideration the people that you are choosing to lead, or the people who choose to follow you. Because if someone puts their trust in you, you've got to earn that trust. You've got to be able to say, this is who I am, sometimes like it or not. Because, leadership is not always about being nice to people. Sometimes it's about bringing down the hammer and saying, I don't care. You got to get on with it, But there's ways to do that. And there's ways to do that because you've earned the right to do that.
Absolutely.
We talk about top-down leadership at this point. It is over and dead and gone. That is a time of the past. Most people today in the workplace, especially in the younger generation, are looking for collaboration. They're looking to feel like they're part of a partnership that actually gets stuff done. And I think if you're placed in a position of being a leader, earn it. Don't just assume it.
I love you said that, because way back in the day when I was working in corporate America and transitioning as an entrepreneur, I had done a couple workshops on being a servant leader. And that's one of the steps, is earning the position. And that's what a servant leader does. They earn the position before they assume the position. And, as we talk about leadership, I would love for you to reel this back a little bit, Jacqueline, and talk about, this isn't your first rodeo in working with high-powered women or companies that are struggling through some of these anomalies within their company of, either engaging with true leadership, advancing true leadership because of the fear. And I know you've created a workshop and you've created a success program, but that all came from your years of experience in working with huge corporations with thousands of employees. So you want to talk a little bit about what you learned through those years in working with those companies and how it all came together into this transformation, strategies for success program.
So here's the thing. A lot of people get promoted into their leadership positions because of skills.
Yeah.
Not because they're good with people. And let's face it, all companies start with people, end with people. And if you don't know how to handle people and you don't know how to understand human behavior and you don't understand how to help people when they're not being able to show up on their own, then clearly there's a flaw there, a big one. And when you look at most companies these days, we talk about dysfunctional companies. There are more of those than there are of companies who really understand employee relations. Yeah. Employee relations is simply about how can I help you grow? Mm-hmm. How can I help you develop? How can I help you be better so that you can help me develop a better company, a better product, a better service? All of that is really relevant right there. And through my years of working with people in the corporate sphere, I found that frequently they were lacking in self-awareness. They were lacking in communication skills, or at least the kind that actually gets stuff done. And I also found that there was a lack of empathy, that they really didn't check out to see what are people's stories. Mm-hmm. Did you get to know the people who are working under you, who are direct reports? Do you know what matters to them? Do you know what kind of stuff is going on in the background beyond their job? Because let's face it, 70% of our life is spent in the workplace, and that other 30% is at home, but we bring that 70% back into the house. And of course, when we go to work, when we go through the door, we're supposed to leave that other 30 or 40% of our lives behind and just get on with the job. So I've had all these conversations over the years where people really wanted to bring their whole self to work, but they were afraid to do so because of judgment, criticism, feeling like they didn't have the goods, that they were weak in certain areas. And in fact, one event I did for a major technology company, it was an Asian major technology company. Everybody's heard of them. And I suggested that they take the mask off when they come to work. That did not go down too well. That was too vulnerable. I was asking too much, because that's the other side of being a good leader. You've got to be willing to be vulnerable, to say, I don't know, to hang it out and say, I'm having a bad day. Maybe we could work together on this one. And at the same time, give your direct reports or other people you're working with the same kind of courtesy.
Yeah. And I want to also ask, like, you talked about trust in ourselves and then building trust with others. Obviously, building trust with others, we know how to do that because we can take the time, like you said, to get to know other people. We can take the time to be interested in what other people like. We used to, I do this with my clients today. And I know that I did this way back in the day in corporate America. We would always train the business owners I worked with on getting to know your staff. What do they like? What lights them up? Get to know them. That way you can deliver something special to them on their level and it not be basically what you like, right? If you work for a boss and that boss loves baseball, and all they do is hand out baseball tickets and baseball paraphernalia because that's all they like, or golf, you're like, this sucks, right? I don't want to be part of this. Like, I can't stand baseball or I don't like golf, right? So it's not appealing to you. So that's how we can build trust with those around us. I get that part of it, to really become a truly empathetic leader. But how do we build trust with ourselves? Since you said one of the biggest factors and pieces to get started was building trust with ourselves, what are some of the steps or processes we can take to at least get started? Because you can't ask other people to believe and trust in you if you don't trust in yourself to start.
Well, that's the key factor here, isn't
Yeah.
it? I mean, it really is about how much personal growth have you done? I
A
always
lot.
ask that question. I know you have, and I certainly have too. But, when you ask the average individual how much personal growth work they've done, you'll come back with a very small percentage. So the first key to all of this is get to know, who are you? What is it that really matters to you? What are your values? What do you consider to be your strengths, your weaknesses? And how do you find yourself communicating with other people? What kind of language do you use? Do you use self-deprecating language? Do you use empowered language? Are you positive or negative in the ways in which you approach things? I mean, there's all kinds of ways in which we can slice and dice this thing. And at the same time, it comes down to, very simply, do you know who you are? And very few people can answer that question.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that. It was, I remember sitting in a leadership class, of all classes, right? A leadership class in my community that they offer for anyone who really wants to become a better leader, because these are going to be the individuals that go through these classes that are going to be leading the community, right, into the next century and whatever decade. And so I love that they had that type of leadership class. And it was a pivotal changing point for me as I sat through that many, many, many years ago. I think it was about 6 years ago. And we started talking about values, and every week we would meet and there would be something new that we would be discussing about leadership, and not only learning about asking and not acting like you know everything, but talking about the basics of where do you root? Where do you root? Like, where's the root of who you are? And that never wavers. No matter what. So if you're rooted in values that are honesty and integrity, that will always be the fact. It will not waver in decisions, businesses, choices, those types of things. So I think you made a very good point there, Jacqueline, about go through an exercise and figure out what is the values that exist for you. And you can, I know those are available. I'm sure you have those available in your workshops and your success programs, because you do those all the time. So I would definitely encourage the listeners to reach out to you to work through that process with them. But you can't ask anyone else to trust you and really become that strong, powerful leader if you don't trust yourself first. And you have to know what you're rooted in.
Yeah, and absolutely, you have to know what you're rooted in, because it comes down to this very simply. When you're out of sync with your values, you feel unhappy. You feel like you work too hard. You feel like you are not being seen and heard properly. You are working against your own best interests. That's when we're out of our values. And I do values work within my programs, but there's a fabulous tool out there that I'd like to recommend. It's called the Values Preference Indicator. Values Preference Indicator. And it's like $35, and it takes you through a whole process of identifying exactly what your values are. And I would say, for anyone really interested in that particular aspect. But beyond that, you've got to know what your vision is for yourself. You've got to know what it is that really matters to you. And of course, we get that through our values, but it's beyond that. It's what's your purpose? Because that's the other side of being a leader. You got to have a clear purpose on why this is important to you. And what's the end result that you want to achieve as you go forward? Do I want to help a group of my direct reports be better so that they can become great leaders? Can I give them the role modeling that's necessary? And by the way, let's talk about role modeling in terms of the individual. We are all role models for our family, number one. So when you think about being a parent, mother, father, whatever, they're looking to you for guidance. They're looking to you for being the kind of person that they would want to emulate, because that's the other side of being a great leader, isn't it? You want to be able to emulate. And so when I hear from leaders, they're constantly comparing themselves to other people. Why would you want to do that? Stop comparing yourself to other people because you're thinking that you need to be like them, but you can, in fact, emulate some of the qualities that you admire in that person and learn how to take that on for yourself, which is another way of figuring out how to trust yourself right there.
Yeah, I love that. That's perfect because, there are leaders that I look up to that I emulate Oprah Winfrey's one of them, of how she came from a childhood that was not forthright for her to be able to go on. And it wasn't in the cards, if you would say, where anyone would think that her path would have led to where her path was. She had a very much a rags to riches story. But that just goes to show that when we have a path, that we have a purpose that we put our passion into, right? And it's what we desire to do. She was the first African-American journalist, right? On TV. And there's so much about her that I admire and look up to. And then when she did get the fame and the fortune, and she just wanted to give it all away, there was so much she did for other people. And in addition to that, many women feel, well, if a lot of it is gain for me to get this fame or this fortune or this money, or, to have this visibility, is that wrong as a leader? And I don't believe it is wrong as a leader, because that's not being selfish, because we become more of who we are when we expand and when we have more money. So if you're already someone who gives to charities or helps other people, when you have more money, now you want to write 6-figure checks and 7-figure checks to charity, right? Because you become more of who you are. It just expands that.
And that's right? A whole other conversation right there in terms of women's worth and their deserving of success, because that's something I touched upon in the start of this conversation, is that you can't take ownership unless you feel like you deserve it. And the big deserving piece is a barrier for so many women. And I know it because I had it too. And I can give all kinds of stories around that. But I think that is a major stumbling block to being a good leader. Do you deserve to be in the role you're in? Yeah, I would like to say yes. And as I shared at the beginning, I've had many conversations with coaching clients over the years about how do you deserve to be in the place you're in, and helping them understand that nobody gets to judge you. Nobody. You get to judge yourself. That's and be careful about how you judge yourself, because that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. On my vision board, I've had a photo, well, it's actually like $100 bill. And it says, I'm worthy of millions. And what happens is, because it's in front of me, where my vision board's on a wall that I see past my computer all day long, my subconscious is just reading that all day long, right? So what happens is then, as you're in action, the law of attraction happens, and it just needs to start attracting all of this to you if you're walking the walk and talking the talk, like we just mentioned. So again, start with the trust. Understand what your values are. Go, do the example of what Jacqueline had given, to where you can go out online and you can even print out, a thing of values, and really circle the ones that mean the most to you and understand and write down why those do. But I know that Jacqueline has a lot of workshops that she does. She's a speaker, goes to many companies and does speaking, as well as strategies and workshops for companies as well, large companies, and small companies as well. And Jacqueline, so give us, I know you have trainings in December that you were doing. Are you going to be doing some more trainings in January throughout 2023? What's on your plate for this year?
Yeah, definitely a lot on my plate this coming year. And so the first thing is that I'm going to be doing a workshop because people want to set their New Year's resolutions. And I say, well, forget the resolutions. Let's talk about your intentions. And we talk about intentions. We talk about the mindset of intentions. We also look at, all the aspects, resources, action steps, priorities, all that good stuff, and your vision. So I'm doing the workshop in December, or we'll have done it in December, but we're also doing it again in January. So I'm really excited to be offering this because it's a roadmap. I'm calling it your personal GPS system. Nice. Because if you're not clear on where you're going in the new year, then you might not get where you want to go. And again, that's going to be more about you than anything else. I'm also doing a retreat for a small group of women, 6 women in April, and I'm super excited about that because we're really going to dive into the self-reflective work, and it's going to be a whole mind, body, spirit thing. So these are the 2 things that I would say right now. I am top of mind, and I am super excited about all of that because my mission in life is to change the world one person at a time.
I love that.
I'm here to serve in any way I can because I want to see many, many more women take ownership and authority so we can have and start to build a different world than the one we're living in right now. And I won't go into the details, but everybody knows what I'm talking about. So women, it's time for you to take the roles that are out there and not allow the barriers to get in the way.
I love that. Thank you so much. So, Jacqueline, where are the best ways for individuals to connect with you? We have some contact information for them already, at their fingertips in the show notes, but where would you say is the best way if someone wanted to connect with you directly?
So you can go directly to my website, JacquelineWales.com. If you're interested in the January workshop, it's JacquelineWales.com/GPS. And if you're interested in how to remove the fears that are getting in the way of your life, you can go to 3 easy ways to transform your fear.com. And you'll get some exercises there that will help how to do that, as well as my Transformational Strategies for Success program. So as Colleen said, there's an awful lot that I've got cooking out there. So go take a look and find something that works for you.
Yes, absolutely. You can also reach her on LinkedIn if that's your preferred social media way to follow her. And I can tell you that retreats are one of the fastest ways to be fully immersed for several days with the women around you. Is the fastest way to transform, by far. The fastest way, because you unplug from the world, you plug into this retreat in this place that you're completely supported and submerged into the changes that need to happen. So there's a lot that happens throughout those days when someone is at a retreat. So I'm so happy to see that you're going to be doing those in 2023 and welcoming, women in that may, they need to get in and out, right? So they're like, I have all of this responsibility and I don't have a lot of time to figure out how to really become that next level leader that I know I can be. How do I do this quickly? And I love the immersive point of the retreat, because not only are they, luxury retreats, so they're treated the way they're used to being treated, but, they get to transform in a very safe and nurturing environment with you at that retreat. So Jacqueline, I'm super excited about that. And so all of you could jump on her newsletter list. That way you stay on top of what she's got going on with her products and her events and retreats as well.
Thank you, Colleen. So, yes, totally agree.
Absolutely. And ladies, I'm just going to tell you right now, right? You're the only you that's ever been. You're the only you that will ever be. So don't just sit there and wait for someone to come and tell you, hey, you got permission to go ahead and really step in to the fullest potential of what you are capable of doing. You have to give yourself that permission to become that true leader, that successful leader that I left it all out on the mat. That's why I used to tell my kids in sports. I left it all out on the mat type of leader where you're doing everything possible and firing on all cylinders. You trust yourself. Others trust you. To get to that level, you have to give yourself the permission. So please do that today. Connect with Jacqueline Wales. Find her at JacquelineWales.com. You can email her at Jacqueline@JacquelineWales.com or connect with her on LinkedIn. Please, please, please do yourself this favor and do not waste another year wondering if it was enough that year. If the next year will be your year that you can become a true leader, like you're just wasting time. And the minute you step into it, others will notice, I promise you. So thank you, Jacqueline, for being on the show today. Thank you all for joining us. And as always, until next time, be you and be strong. Until then, bye-bye for now. See you guys.
We hope you enjoyed our show today, as our guests shared their secrets on designing their life by taking the necessary leaps to expand their influence and attract the right people and clients into their lives. To start these easy steps for yourself, be sure to visit www.colleenbiggs.net/freebies to download the 7 ways to increase your exposure today.